Hello Stampers, it's Debbie with Stamp It with Debbie, and today I have a fun project for you. It's this little card here. Now it wouldn't be something you would necessarily send out in the mail, but it would be fun to include as a little gift to somebody or include with a gift that you gave them. So it unties here and opens up, and the person that receives it can tie this back into a bow here, and the card will stay open. It's called a carousel card, and I'm going to walk you step by step on how to create this card today. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you what you need for this project. You are going to need 4 pieces of cardstock. Now I'm using Whisper White today, and you can use any color that you want your card base to be. On this one I used an old color I was kind of testing out to make sure that I could put the card together and give you a tutorial. So I used an old piece of cardstock. I would recommend if you have a 12 by 12 piece of paper to use that because it will cut perfectly into quarters. So again, 4 6 by 6 squares. You're also going to need 10 squares that will coordinate either with your card base or with your designer paper. And there's 10 of these, and they're cut at 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. Then you're going to need a piece of designer paper and 10 of those because we attached those to the white piece that we cut before. 10 pieces of designer paper cut at 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. We're also going to need 4 pieces of a designer paper that coordinates with the other designer paper, cut at 2 7/8 by 2 7/8, and then cut at the diagonal. You need 4 of those squares. And don't worry if you're not catching this, I'm going to leave all the measurements in the comments below so that you'll have them. Then the only other thing you're going to need are a couple pieces, and I didn't finish this one, I'll finish it later, but some pieces to put inside of your card. So I just used some random die cuts, and then I did use the butterfly set, and I also used the bird, free as a bird stamp set. I'll show you. They both had some really good sayings in them, so I thought that I would just use those. And so I'll put those aside. And you do need a scoreboard also. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, your 6 by 6 paper. I'm going to grab my scoreboard here. And we're going to score at 3 inches and turn it again and score at 3 inches. Now, while this piece is still here at the 3.5 inch mark, we're going to come down to this first score line. So right there. So here's the 3, here's the 3. We're at 3.5. We're coming down to that score line. We're going to set that aside for a minute. We're going to do the same thing to all 4 pieces. I'm going to do this again just to show you 3 and 3, and then at 3.5, come down to that first score line. Now, some of these things I've already done in advance. I'm going to do some of the steps along with you so that the video doesn't get super long. Now, we need to score this at the diagonal. And so I am going to, it was here. We're going to take it here. So this is where the piece of paper was. Here's this 3.5 inch score line. We're just going to tilt this paper. Now I'm going to bring it back because I'm going to go to the 5, and this is how I can find it at the bottom. So I'm at the 5 and my other point is at the 5. Now while I'm doing this, I am going to tell you that I did try to do this on my paper trimmer and I didn't get a very good diagonal line. This is a project that your corners need to be exactly in the corner, and this is the best way that I could find to make that happen. I also tried to use a ruler and the card got off a little. So what's going to happen if you do that is, so while I'm working and talking, I'll just tell you, I'm going to go back to the 5. What's going to happen if you get off just a little bit is that your card is going to have, the edges aren't going to line up perfectly. And so this is the best way that I found. So again, I took my stylus, I brought it down to the end of my scoreboard on the 5 line. That way when I come back up here at 5, I know it's going to come right down here and it's going to be exactly in each corner. Okay, that's it for the scoring. Now you also will need a bone folder, and you're going to need some tape that is strong adhesive and a pair of paper snips. Now we're going to do a little bit of snipping. I know this is going to be a little hard because it's white, but hopefully you'll be able to see it okay. This is the corner right here that we did that 1/2 inch line. So this is the 3-inch line, 3-inch line. Here's the little 1/2 inch line. On this side, I'm going to cut all the way up to that center score line. Just to the center score. Now, I'm going to leave this part here, that's a tab, so I'm only cutting off that score line. So that 1/2 inch strip that we drew there, we want to leave that on. Now we want to cut a really big angle right here, and you'll understand why in just a minute when we go to put this piece together. So again, we're going to do the same exact thing. Here's one square right here that's 3 by 3. On this line here, we're going to leave this tab. We're going to cut right up here, just to the middle score line. And then here, we're going to, this is again the 3-inch score line we did. We're going to cut right on this 1/2 inch score line at the 3.5 one we did. And I'll save those cutouts and I can use them again later. And again, we're just going to cut a really big diagonal on that tab. Same with over here. So now what we need to do is get our bone folder and burnish all of those score lines. We want to make sure that they're really burnished so that when our card goes together, it folds the way it's supposed to. Okay, whoop, one more. Don't put the bone folder away just yet. Okay, so this is how I found it was easiest for me to get the orientation of the card. So this little tab is going to go right here. So you want this, I call it a mountain and a valley. So where you scored it, here's that diagonal line we did down the center. Those are both pointing up. My little tab is right here. And what's going to happen is this tab is going to go to the back of the card. And what you want to make sure is that where we cut that angle, it's not crossing over this score line right here. If it is, we need to cut off a little bit more, but hopefully you can see that mine is fine right there. It's not overlapping that score line. So I'm going to set it back down and I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive. We're going to put adhesive just on this little tab and then bring it over and make sure that it's good and squared up. And by that I mean this piece is really tight up to the other edge. Okay, and we're going to do that for all 4 pieces. As I said, I already did a couple of them just so that you didn't have to keep seeing the repetitiveness of it and make the video really long. If you need to, you can always go back and rewind it. Again, I put adhesive there. I'm going to bring this over, and I did already check to make sure that this part of the tab was not going over that score line at all. All right, we just want to make sure that they're really nice and adhered well. And so I'll bring my other pieces in. Now what we want to do is we're going to tuck this one corner in, either of the corners, and just make sure that our card goes together really well. And then I did take my bone folder and just burnish all those edges. I'm going to do the same with this one. And if it's not quite lining up right, all you need to do is kind of force it over and then use your bone folder and it will go right in shape. But if you did that thing that I showed you on the diagonal with the 5, they should line up pretty well every single time. So I already did these two, so now we're good to go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start adhering these together to make the carousel. So this is the flat piece here. There is no scoring on it. There's scoring at the bottom, a diagonal score there, and a diagonal score on this wall. So if you look at it, that would fold in, and this bottom would fold in. So this back wall right here that has no scoring, we're going to adhere that to the piece right next to it. So again, we're going to use a really strong adhesive, get it close to the edge because you don't want your book pulling apart. And again, you're going to hook the edge that has no scoring to the next edge that has no scoring. I like to use liquid adhesive because it gives me a little time to wiggle it around and get it right where I want it to be so that all my sides are perfectly lined up. And then you'll just want to hold it at the bottom to make sure. That's where I found my first one, that it was kind of coming apart down here. Okay, so the next step is we need to hook this one to this side, but this time our flat back needs to be over here. What we're mostly looking for is there's a score line here and a score line here. So now I'm going to put adhesive again on that back side. I'm going to bring this together. And make sure all my edges line up really well. And then our last one, of course, so again, the biggest thing is we want to have this crease line here on the bottom. We never want the flat part to be on the bottom because when the card folds up, this part's not going to fold. These are going to fold together. So for this one here, it doesn't matter if you glue that side or this side, but you want to leave one of the sides open. So we're only going to put adhesive on one side. So again, I'm going to make sure that my scored edge is at the bottom and I'm putting adhesive on the flat side. I'm going to bring it right over and then just squeeze it together to make sure that it's lined up where you want it to be. Okay, so this side right here is not glued at all. Okay. And so I'm just gonna, I'll show you what I did. Okay, this is the part that is not glued. I'm just gonna start folding and see how these are the bottom score lines. They're just folding right up. And that's what makes your book. So now if it's off just a little bit, it's not going to be perfect every time. You can kind of skew it just a little bit, but also use your bone folder, secure it down really well. And now we're ready to decorate the inside. Now this is where, again, I have the 2 7/8 piece on the outside. The designer paper is 2 3/4. I've just attached them so that we could save a little bit of time in the video. I'm going to attach those to the inside of the card, right there on this back wall. The only place you're not going to do them yet are these two flaps that are not connected. So you're going to do it, you're going to put them everywhere else. And I'm going to put a glue on a couple of them so we can speed it up just a little bit. And so you're just attaching them. Now, I'm used all of the same designer paper. You do not have to. You can use all different designer paper. You could use something that's embossed, whatever you want to decorate the inside. You could use pictures. I think pictures would be really fun. So I'm just going to keep working my way around. Now, keep in mind, you can sign every page. You can put a little fun stamp on every page. You could put some pictures on some of them and something stamped on the other ones. It's your book, so you decide how you want to decorate it. And again, I'm just taking these pieces and adhering them to the back wall. So this is the bottom part. I'm putting them right here on the inside. We're going to do all but those two that I showed you on the flaps that were not adhered down or adhered together yet, because we need to do one more step before we can do that. All right, now I use liquid adhesive. You can use snail, you can use any liquid adhesive. You could use tear and tape. You probably want something kind of strong because it's a card that's going to be open and closed quite a bit. So I think that I'm going to set these two pieces right here aside for just a minute. And my liquid adhesive is running out, so I'm going to grab something else. So again, we're just going to put adhesive on the back of these 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 that I cut on a diagonal. And when we put these in, we need to make really sure, hopefully you can see, here's our diagonal cut. We want to go back in that back corner as far as we can. We don't want it to run over this edge here, and we also don't want it on that diagonal score line that we did. So hopefully you can see this. Push it back in the corner and also leave a little edge here. So I'm just going to turn and go ahead and do all the other sides. This looks like a complex card, but if you cut all of the pieces first and assemble them after you're done and start the card, it really goes together pretty quickly. So don't be afraid of trying it because it's really super fun and I love the effect of it. And like I said, I think pictures in here would be really fun. I'm going to probably put some pictures in here before I send this out to somebody. And now, of course, if you send it in the mail, you're going to have to find a different way of packaging it. You could just give it to somebody in person, and that would work too, and you wouldn't need any extra postage that way. All right, one more side here. Okay, so that part is all done. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you about those other two parts. So again, just start folding this little thing up, and you'll see the rest of the book just comes along. That's why we want to score it so well all the way along. Now we need to put some ribbon so we can hold this closed. I'm going to use the polka dot tool, and I'm going to kind of guess here how much I need. I'm going to cut that in half because I don't want it to go around the book. I'm going to secure this with tear and tape in a few different ways. First of all, I'm going to put this piece here. This is my opening, so I'm going to put this here, take the backing off, and put that ribbon right on there. That's going to hang out. Now I'm going to put two more little pieces of tear and tape on top of that, and when I get ready to put this on, I'll tear those off. So again, we want a really strong adhesive. We could use tear and tape on this piece. This is our cover. And so when I'm ready to put that on, I'm just going to take the backing off. That'll just give it one more piece of stick on top of the ribbon. Okay, and make sure that that's really well on there. And now I'll do the same thing for the back side. I'm going to put that tear and tape in the center, take the backing off, and put my ribbon so that it's coming out the front. Oh, it was also coming out the back. You don't want it to go out too far here. Then I'm going to take two little pieces, lay it on top. That just gives our note card on top something to stick to a little better. Oh, and then I should have put this on first, but I'll hold it with my hand while I do it. Square that right up there. Had a little piece of extra adhesive there. And so now we could tie this, but we need to finish decorating it on the inside. So let's wait just a minute. We'll pull those strings over here. Let me regroup just a minute and get rid of some of my things. Now you probably don't want to put too many dimensionals on the inside because it'll bulk up your card a lot. So I'm going to put this one here on the outside. And this one just says, our friendship means the world to me. And I have cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think I'll just randomly put them in there and save some room for some pictures. What I've done is I stamped and punched out the butterfly and just attached it to a circle. And so I can put it at an angle, or I can put it in straight. This one says, good things in life are better with you. And then I have another butterfly. And again, you could put a white piece of paper in here and sign, or you could put pictures in there. The world needs more of you is what this one says. And again, these are both from the Butterfly Gala and the Free as a Bird. Now I have two more, so I think I'll just go ahead and put them in. I could put one down here because the card's going to fold up just fine. I think I'll put it over here since I have just a butterfly there. And then I think I'll put it here. This one says, hello, beautiful. That's one of my favorite stamps from the butterfly set. Just make sure that it doesn't go over this score line here in the middle for when folding it up. All right, now once again, time to pull in all those scored lines. And we're just going to tie a little bow here at the end so that our book stays together and looks super cute with that tulle polka dot ribbon. I really have way too much of that. I'm going to cut a little bit off. And I think I still have too much ribbon. I'll adjust it later, but I like the look of it. So again, this is called a carousel card, and whoever you give it to, they can display it on their desk or in their bedroom on their dresser or at work, wherever they want to. And it's just a little reminder of how special they are to you. So hope you liked today's video. If you do, click the subscribe button below and then hit the bell and you'll receive notifications of all my videos. If you need supplies for this or any other project, you can visit my online store at stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net. And one last thing, don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know if you like this card, and come on over to Facebook and join us there. We like to do a lot of stamping and sharing at facebook.com/stampitwithdebbie. Thanks so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you again real soon.